So, welcome back. We are back again to the screen recording. Well, I believe I've thought about how to present this, how to best explain this, and honestly, this would be the best way. I hope it would be clear for everyone. Well, what I'm trying to answer here is a question that I'm frequently asked. What does it mean to work in the ESG sphere and the sustainability sphere? What does that look like? What is it that you're working actually on? And that's exactly what I'm trying to explain here. Plus, what are the roles, what job descriptions, what sustainability professional do for a living? What is actually the day-to-day tasks? Well, different tasks out there. However, I would summarize it into two categories: a data stream owner and project manager, or a combination of both. For example, me personally, I do a mixture of both. What does it mean to be a data stream owner? You might be responsible for specific data to be delivered on a specific time. You might be responsible to improve the delivery method. You collaborate with the data owner, ask them to facilitate the process of providing the data and how they provide the data set, the timeline maybe. So, and before all of that, we go back to just a quick summary. We've covered the three main dimensions that as a sustainability professional, you either work on one or more of these three, which are sustainability strategy. You may be responsible to develop the strategy or be part of the strategy development and overlooking how to achieve specific goals. You might be responsible for the disclosure or one specific KPI metrics to 100 of KPI metrics, or to be responsible to collaborate and collect the complete set of data. You might be responsible to hand over the data to a specific platform to develop. So there's different roles when it comes to disclosure as well. And there is the practice where you actually responsible to deliver on targets, to deliver on specific disclosed targets. And assuming it's achieving net zero, you're a project manager that work on decarbonization project. That's something under practice. You might be also working on more than one, and that's usually the case. You are not just specifically working on project. Rather, if you are working on project, most probably you are a data stream owner that also report on this project. Therefore, let's break it down. As a data stream owner, you look into this ESRS data stream and metrics we've presented earlier. Basically, for each ESRS, or if you're for climate change, there are different metrics that need to be reported. As a data stream owner, you might be responsible for scope 1 and 2. You might be responsible for scope 3 specific category, or scope 3 in general. You'll be working on the data. You need to collaborate internally and maybe externally. You might need to import data from various system databases to various platforms and databases. You might be responsible to calculate or measure specific KPI, such as scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, which is the most popular part. Everyone asking, should I start working on or have a course on calculating emissions? Well, honestly speaking, it's not the best starting point. It might be a good starting point. It's not the best. You need to understand the overall framework when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions calculation. Most probably there are calculators out there that do the calculation, but you need to work on data collection, so you need to understand the framework. You might be actually performing a risk assessment or gap analysis or evaluating scenarios and report on these. So for example, the suppliers evaluation of a supply chain, you might perform a risk assessment or gap assessment of your supplier performance and then report on that. So these are people working in disclosure, and they are data stream owner. You might be responsible for strategy, project management, and disclosure of a specific product, of a specific project. Therefore, let's jump to the project manager. You might be a project manager responsible for a specific target, specific tasks, specific project. Taking decarbonization, the example we've mentioned earlier, a plant, you're responsible to decarbonize this plant. You might need to be good in energy management, leading a team, lead a project, achieve specific targets, specific time and scope for this project. You might be responsible for pollution management or wastewater treatment, achieving the goals for water conservation and the quality of the effluent. Well, you need to be expert in treatment and water recovery. You might be biologists, depend on the industry as well. You might be responsible for circularity and circular initiatives. Well, you might be in the research and development team and try to work on the design of the product. You might be on the other end working with customers on reverse logistics. Therefore, these project managers, most probably they are reporting on these projects. They are working on achieving the high level goals or smaller goals that contribute to a higher level goal. So a company owning 10 plants, you might be responsible for the decarbonization of all plants or responsible for a specific plant. Therefore, the alternatives are really, there are various opportunities and in different here and there. And that's the interesting part of ESG. Whatever your background is, you can utilize that to shift toward ESG role. So if you are energy manager, most probably you have a big chance to become decarbonization responsible or decarbonization lead and support the ESG team. As an energy manager, you're already part of the sustainability kind of sphere, right? If you are responsible for or you are working on supply chain, you might have a big chance or big possibility to work on the sustainability of the supply chain or supplier evaluation or supplier human rights, etc. So that's a great thing about it. It's a wide variety of alternatives. However, that means that people from various departments can actually land an ESG or sustainability role. So if we are looking at the whole landscape or ecosystem inside a company, we are looking at the sustainability overarching departments, such as the chief sustainability officer, the sustainability manager. Yeah, like the most popular title, yeah, sustainability manager. I'm personally a sustainability manager. Maybe ESG reporter, ESG controller, sustainability training specialist, sustainable architecture, sustainable agriculture, energy and water, etc. Life cycle assessment, you name it. There's too many titles that are an overarching. But for each department, there are different titles, different possibilities that someone from this background can pursue. If we look at the research and development, and that would depend on the industry, because research and development in agriculture have specific niched experience and understanding and expertise. It can be soil scientists, wildlife biologists, conservation scientists, you name it. So you are in the research and development that's really linked to ESG, because in agriculture we would need to also achieve specific targets, and that might require us to have some innovation there. Product development, when it comes to manufacturing, product development, material innovation, your place is circularity. You need to develop a product that is more circular, less material, recyclable, reusable, avoid some specific material or specific chemicals. Energy, easy, straightforward, decarbonization, reducing energy, more renewable, etc. In the retail supply chain, eco-friendly packaging, the list goes on. Yeah, you can see in the operation there are different people who's EHS officer, water efficiency engineer, energy efficiency engineer, waste coordinator. These might be already data stream owners that report to an ESG coordinator. However, you might develop from this position to take an more strategic role in the sustainability economy. Okay, there's the external sustainability services. Well, we are talking about the sustainability consultant, the life cycle assessment consultant, and this is also something that people usually tend to ask: should I take a life cycle assessment or a lead or a specific certification? Well, if you are working in the research and development, I would definitely push you toward life cycle assessment. If you are working as an architect or a civil engineer, then lead it is, and you're in the right direction. So that all depend on your background. So you need to assess where you're at, and then based on that, just go toward where you can achieve more and take more of a strategic role. And now if we are looking at the whole ecosystem, just this is an ESG for non-expert course, so you might end up not actually inside a company, rather outside a company. Just on the left side, you can see who are the stakeholders that someone or a sustainability manager or ESG manager in a company can or have to interact with. They might interact with the shareholders. You might not directly interact, rather your reports are very important for the shareholders, for the employees, for customers, and for investors. Well, I'm not sure what is actually in here. Competitors as well for benchmarking, but also investors. So there are different stakeholders that you might not directly interact with, rather your report is important and essential for them. You might need information to report on from these stakeholders. On the right side, you can see other possibility that, or also stakeholders that you might interact with, but you might also work with sustainability services, and that's a huge ecosystem where you can go toward reporting, emission calculation, ESG. There are SaaS services that provide basically you report once and then the report is distributed to CDP, to Sustainalytics, to etc. There are auditors, consulting firms, life cycle assessment company. There are different companies out there that basically provide sustainability services. There's the certification bodies, different certification bodies for different certifications. It's not specifically sustainability reporting, rather maybe a different sustainability requirement. There's the regulators that basically push the sustainability topic, and there's the suppliers where procurement team, supply chain teams that are actually in contact with and might be really useful when it comes to sustainability, especially that the sustainability ecosystem and regulations are expanding to include supply chains such as the CSDD, the EUTR, the CBAM. These are all regulations. These are examples in Europe that actually covers the supply chain. Therefore, it's huge. It's everywhere. However, that means that you have better opportunity, more opportunities based on your background. So based on your background, try to take the right road toward ESG.